Hey everybody, it's Jen. Welcome back to the channel. Today I am bringing you a Q&A. We're going to chat about a lot of different topics related around work, a few things about parenting, some things about traveling, international flights, all the fun things. Normally, these kinds of videos are something that appeals to people that already watch my channel, but if this is your first time finding me, that's amazing too. So if you're brand new, it might give you just like a little taste about all the different topics we talk about here. And yeah, I'm just really glad that you're here under any circumstances. So I don't know what kind of day you've had today. The last 10 days, 2 weeks for me personally have been extremely stressful. We're walking a journey with a loved one. I won't go into details there. I've hinted around a little bit about it on Instagram. If you're one of my patrons, you for sure know what's going on. But it's been an unbelievably stressful time. You can kind of tell by my nails and my cuticles are a mess. One of the questions maybe I'll just open with that one because we are walking through such a challenging time. By the way, you guys answer these questions over on Instagram. So if you're not following me over there, I am at Jen Lefforge. So one of you asked, how do you stay so positive? And I laughed as I looked down at my raggedy cuticles because when I'm going through a hard time, that's like my stress go-to. I wish that it wasn't, but it is. And I thought, the reason that you think I'm so positive all the time, which by the way, I take as a huge compliment, is because I tend to not film if I'm in that space where I'm like, I'm just done with everything and everyone. Those are the days when I kind of hide away and you don't see me. So Scott and I were chatting about this question before he left for work. And he was like, yeah, they know you're not like this all the time, right? 100% not like this all the time. I have many dark days of the soul. In fact, I'm kind of I'm kind of dark, if we're going to be honest. So I'm one of those people that I can experience things big. So I can experience good feelings really big, and I experience bad feelings really big, and it's okay, and I'm happy about that. But one thing I'm very kind of anti is toxic positivity, where it's like just, white knuckle it through and always be positive and attitude is everything. And that's fine. But I'm also all about a good cry. I'm all about a good screaming into a pillow if necessary. I'm all about sheet caking, whatever one needs to do. So, how do I stay so positive? I don't. And I think staying positive is a disservice because not everything is positive. Sometimes things are wildly negative. And pretending that they're otherwise, for me, is like a first class ticket to depression. Not even a first class ticket, like a coach ticket in the middle aisle in row 43. So, I don't. That's the answer. How do you stay so positive? I don't. Also, peppered in through here, I'm going to add some questions that I get asked just generally all the time. One of the questions I get asked a lot is what airline does your husband work for? And because of security reasons and HR and, just for our own personal privacy, I prefer to just leave that something that's just for our family to know. Okay, so let's move on to the rest of the questions. This one kind of made me laugh. This is from Linda Middleton. And yes, you submitted them on Instagram. And yes, I could take them off Instagram, but I wrote them down because part of me, like the act of actually writing things down for some reason really helps me like internalize what the question is. I don't know why. I'm a person who always has to take handwritten notes to cement things in my brain. It's why I use an actual paper planner. Linda Middleton asked, does it feel strange that we know so much about you and you don't know much about us? I've always wondered. So yes, it's a little strange. The only time it really comes into play or where it feels a little odd for me are actually two scenarios. Sometimes when people approach me like in the wild, normally this happens like on a cruise ship, or it's happened a couple times here in my hometown. And I always have that moment where I'm like, wait a minute, do I know this person? Like, do I know them from the gym? Do I know them from, the dog park? Do I know them from my dentist's office? So that's a little odd. The weirdest one was probably when we moved here and I started with my new dentist and he watched the channel. That really threw me off. So in that regard, it can be a little odd, but not necessarily in a bad way. Sometimes where I think it plays out in a bad way is people's comfort level in DMing me things that I don't think they would ever DM a perfect stranger, just like opinions about me or commenting really odd things, most of which I delete. Because when it comes to Instagram comments and comments on YouTube and things like that, I really feel like if you're watching my content and you're commenting, it's like you're coming into my home. And if you're not going to behave yourself, then you're not welcome in my home. In fact, recently I blocked someone on one social media format for poor behavior. And then they took to YouTube and left me a 3-paragraph message about how wrong it was that I blocked them on the other social media platform. And I was like, well, you really proved me right on that one, didn't ya? So that's a little strange. Linda, you have never done that, would never do that. You and I have been chatting over DMs for a very long time. But yes, it's an odd relationship. And I value the community that we've built here. So it's not odd most of the time to me in a bad way. All right, next question. Do you follow any nutrition plan? You look great. Thank you. That is from Ace Ellison Picks. Sorry. Also, I constantly have to check my Invisalign, which yes, I am wearing Invisalign because even though I only have on lip liner and like Vaseline, it still gets on my teeth. It's the craziest thing. Okay. Do I follow a nutrition plan? I am a vegetarian. I'm actually a pescatarian, which means I eat fish. I try to follow like a Mediterranean, I don't like to say the word diet, but a Mediterranean guidelines, a lot of olive oil, a lot of fresh fish, a lot of vegetables. I eat a lot of feta cheese, which I don't think is technically on the Mediterranean diet, but ever since we got back from Greece, I'm obsessed with like the salad with just like feta cheese, cucumbers, olives, tomatoes, maybe some pasta. In fact, that's what I'm going to make for dinner tonight. So yeah, I do. I really try to not eat a lot of sugar. That's probably been the biggest shift for me over the last couple of years. I used to have a huge sweet tooth. I still have a sweet tooth, but I'm trying to really dial that back. There are so many health benefits to at least cutting down on sugar. And I'm really big on feast days. So, like Christmas and things like that, I kind of feel like I just relax and eat what I want. But then, like the boring times of the year, I try to stick to a pretty predictable and kind of pretty boring diet, if I'm going to be honest. I always have hard boiled eggs in the refrigerator. I try to really watch my protein intake. Women going through menopause and postmenopausal women do need a lot of protein. And since I'm a pescatarian, so I don't eat red meat or chicken or anything, I really have to watch that I'm getting that from beans, legumes, things like that. And then, of course, I exercise a lot. I walk my dogs about an hour a day. I also run, not a lot. I run maybe 5 to 10 miles a week. I do strength training. So for me, it's not really about a fitness and nutrition regime as much as it's about like overall health and nutrition and trying to make sure that I'm doing what I can to stay healthy. So thank you very much. I should have mentioned where I'm filming from. Those of you that have been following the channel since I was Jen Lefforge and then moved over to this channel probably recognize this space. It has changed a lot, but I am in our basement, which some people would call like a terrace level because it's finished and it has windows and a door. It's not like subterranean, but I love it down here. And especially in the summer, it is just nice and cool and like the perfect place to come when I want to film. And this space was not really conducive to that. So I have spent the last several months cleaning up down here, clearing out down here, and just kind of doing a backdrop that I felt like was normal looking. I don't know. Backdrops in YouTube are a weird thing, but let me know in the comments if you like this setup. I might still tweak it, especially since this is the first video I'm filming. I'm not sure how the light is. So yeah, we'll just see how it goes. But if you were like, that space looks familiar, you're not wrong. I used to film right back there at a desk in the very, very beginnings of my YouTube journey. So Welcome to the new space, everybody. That's not new at all, but you know what I mean. What is your favorite musical from SJ805? My favorite musical is so weird. And many, many, many people have never even heard of this musical, but it's a musical that I was actually in when I was in college, and it is called The Man of La Mancha, and it is based on the story of Don Quixote, and which is by Cervantes. If you're not familiar with this story, it is about an old man who has visions that windmills are knights that he has to conquer, and the music is swelling and beautiful. And the story of Dulcinea, which is this wonderful woman that is, shall we say, not going through the best time in her life. And he sees her as Dulcinea, this queen, and she is telling him, it's just the whole thing. Like, I get goosebumps even talking about it. If you want to spend some time, if you're me, you're going to cry. The most famous song from it is, of course, To Dream the Impossible Dream, which you've probably heard. It's been done by everyone, including Frank Sinatra and Michael Bublé and many other people. But the story is just moving to me. And being in it in college, I was in the ensemble, and it's done as an ensemble piece. So people are on and off the stage. So you're on stage almost the whole time if you're in that musical. And it's just the meaning behind it means the world to me. My son and husbands were in Barcelona, and they brought me back from there a beautiful Picasso of a print, of course. They didn't bring me back an actual Picasso, but a print that Picasso did of Don Quixote. And it's just, for whatever reason, a story that my whole life has really, really resonated with me. So it's a weird choice that I love it, but yeah, but I do. I love it. Okay, tips on handling stress from politics from, ironically, Keep It Positive 40. Okay, tips on handling politics stress. Denial is really good. Compartmentalization. And recently for me, an understanding that we have been here before. Maybe not exactly here, but in human history, we have been here before. And sadly, in human history, we will be here again. So I try very hard not to panic. I try very hard to make sure that I am doing what I can. So I'm voting. I'm spreading awareness where I feel it's appropriate, spreading awareness about voting, because that is, as of right now, the power that we have. I try to read my news instead of watch my news. I find that reading it in print is much, how do I say this? Reading it in print doesn't not trigger. I don't like the word trigger unless you're really talking about PTSD things, which I do know something about. So it doesn't stress me out as much when I read it as opposed to when I watch it. So I try not to get my news watching it. And I try to just, like, throughout my day, set aside time and be like, okay, at 2 o'clock, I'm going to check in and see what's going on with fill in the blank thing du jour. And then I move on with the rest of my life. Because at the end of the day, I think I already said that once, but when all is said and done, let's go with that instead of at the end of the day. I have 3 sons, 3 dogs, a wonderful husband, friends that I care about, my mom, my siblings' kids. Like, I have people in my life that I never invest the time into that I would like to. So what I really don't want to do is waste emotional energy on things that I have no control over. So I like to be educated, especially because I'm in a place where I do have a voice. And as if you follow me on anything, you know, I do use that voice. So I like to be educated. I like to use my voice as well as I can for good to raise money for causes, da 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 da. And then I try to just live every day of my life with joy and intentionality. Do I always get that right? Oh, hell no. I do not always get that right. And that disappoints me. But I'm also just a human being living in the insanity that this is, along with everyone else. So I would say compartmentalize, lower your exposure when you're feeling stressed out about it, because you being stressed isn't going to change a gosh darn thing. And in fact, might put you into despair, which might keep you from voting and keeping from using your voice in a way that could change things. So work within what you have. And then remember that as someone that I love said years ago, there is a God and you're not him or her. And even if you don't believe in God, maybe just have a faith in the collective that is all of us. We are all in this together. And if it's a day where you need to take a break, trust that somebody else is stepping in to fight the good fight on that day, and you need to take as much time as you need. So maybe that's helpful. Maybe it's not. It helps me because I can get really wound up, and I can't do that again. I can't do that again. We're not going back there. All right, let's move on to some travel questions. Any particular reason you haven't done an Alaskan cruise? 2, they're super dang expensive. You guys know I don't do PR trips generally. And honestly, I just got back from doing one with Viking. I loved it. I still kind of like paying my own way though. I like being fully authentic with you guys, whatever. And Alaskan cruises are dang expensive. So it hasn't been in the budget. I was going to do one, and then Adam asked me to do a cruise with him. So I did that instead. No regrets. Love Adam. Love that we were able to do a cruise together. But Alaska may have to wait until 2025 just because of the budget. But the other reason, aside from the budget, is the time away from home. As I mentioned, I am walking through something with a loved one. I'm not loving being away from home for longer than like a week. And Alaska, most of them are 7 nights, which would mean a night on either end for travel because they are usually out of Vancouver. So that would be 9 to 10 days away from home. And at this stage, and you know, every stage is different, you guys, right? It's like we work through these different phases of life where we have less time or more time. It's not great for me to be gone that long. So it's the money, but it's also the time. So yeah, I hope to do one soon. It is definitely on my list. How have you incorporated facials into your skincare regime, and what type? So I do anti-aging facials. Mostly I've been going to Disney spas or Disney Cruise Line spas that use Elemis products, but there's also a place here in town that I really like, the Woodhouse Day Spa. They have branches all over the United States. I always look for the anti-aging one. There's usually like a pro collagen one that has like a lot of exfoliation. I'm going to do a whole video about my skincare coming up soon because I haven't done an updated one of that in a while, and I've had a couple of you ask for it. But anything that's got like, they've been doing the red light thing on me a lot. They've been doing a lot of like pro collagen exfoliation and really light peels. So if you're going to do it like when you're on vacation, like at the Grand Floridian, which is where I had my last one, which was incredible, just look for anti-aging. Another great option is you can always call them ahead of time and just tell them what your concern areas are. On Disney Cruise Line, they now have you schedule the time and not the particular facial. And then when you get in the room with the facialist, you can say, I'm concerned about fine lines and wrinkles. I'm concerned about dullness, da 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 da. Some of you may or may not know, I have opted out of doing any kind of plastic surgery or what's it called? Botox. I haven't done any Botox or fillers or anything like that. Some people go that path. That is not for me, just because I know that I'm a tiny bit perfectionist, and I feel like I would always look in the mirror and be like, okay, now we have to do this. Okay, now we have to do this. Okay, now we have to do this. And that just becomes never ending, and I didn't want to play that way. So I choose to do the skincare and facial route. Quite honestly, I probably end up spending almost the same amount of money. That's okay because I'm not actually injecting anything into my skin, and I don't like needles and da 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 da. So yeah, I get a facial about every 6 to 8 weeks, depending. I'm due for one now, so I probably will schedule it at the Woodhouse Day Spa. They have a really good team over there, and yeah, that's how that is going. But like I said, I am going to do a video about my skincare coming up pretty soon. Some of you might be like, your skin looks awful. Why would you do that? I like my skin, so you know, you can shove off. Goals for the next 5 years, professional, personal, what do you see coming? So I love this question. I just got done reading the most amazing book called How to Be Old. I will link it below. It is by a woman that started she was a professor, then she became an Instagram influencer, and now I think she's in her 70s or 80s. The book is so good, so filled with so much wisdom, and it really was like a restart for me, like helped me start to see, what do I want the next 5 years to look like? I have a couple of book ideas that I am being encouraged to pursue, not fiction, nonfiction, just some different motivation for women in midlife, things like that. I really hope to at least get started down that path in the next 5 years. If 5 years from now, I could have at least one, if not two books published, way back when I started blogging in like 2012, that was kind of in the back of my mind of something that I wanted to do eventually. So definitely I would like to publish. I would love to start selling a product. I've been in development a couple different times for a couple different things, including like a travel comforter, because you know how I feel about comforters. So I don't really know where all that's going to go yet. So I'm not 100% sure, but I am very excited. I will say this. I have kind of come to this spot of it's time to launch again. I've been doing things the same way for a while, and I am feeling this kind of excitement about a change and something that might come. I would love it if it didn't have to be something of my own making. I've been doing this business now for 6 years. I did it myself. I made it from scratch, as they say, and it would be so awesome to have somebody else say, hey, Jen, we would love for you to do this. So I have my ears open. I'm open to possibilities. I'm really praying about that and trying to kind of put that out into the universe. So I will say this, I am very excited about the next 5 years. I feel like personally, professionally, spiritually, physically, emotionally, I am in for a fabulous season coming up, and I'm very excited to live that life and to live it with you guys. So there you go. And my family, of course, who I adore, who are more important to me than you guys. But you knew that. You would expect nothing less. Let's see. All right, there's that one. What does current Jen wish past Jen would have taught her boys? Oh, that's from Dylan K. Osterman. This is a very, I cried for a little bit when I read this question because unfortunately, my sons were raised in a conservative church environment where we allowed things to be taught to them in Sunday school, and probably without meaning to, they made assumptions about how we felt, and we were on a journey with all of this where our kids were not necessarily, I don't think, taught the truth about love and gender and sexuality, and things were very rigid in a way that I regret raising them. I wish we had raised them in a more fluid, free environment in that regard. I think for one of my sons in particular, it caused a lot of damage. So for me, that question is something that I really struggle with. And I'm just being really transparent, you guys. There are so many of us that have children that didn't fit the traditional thing that we raised them in, that now look back and just weep with the just not acceptable structure of their church environment. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail because there were some very good things about our lives growing up in the church. I was a pastor. My kids had a lot of people that really cared about them and still care about them. But there were some structures that I wish I had had the courage to bust out of a lot earlier in their lives than I did. And I think that they have paid a price for that. So yeah, that's what I wish I could go back and do over. And Scott feels the same way. It's a tough thing to reconcile, and it's one of those things like a magic eye picture. Y'all remember those where it looks like gibberish, and then if you kind of blur your eyes a little, you see the truth. And now that we see the truth about certain things, it's a struggle for us to look back at what we allowed our kids to be taught. So yeah, I don't know if that makes sense. For some of you, that just made perfect sense. Some of you are like going, huh? That's okay. I love that for you. Okay, moving on. My youngest turned 18 today, and I turned 40 this summer. I'm feeling lost. What next? The wandering librarian. Oh, golly. Who knows? It's one of those things that's like everything is possible for you. I'm assuming from your online name that you're educated. I'm assuming that you're on the lookout for what happens next. So I feel like what is supposed to happen next will happen. start saying yes to a lot of things that you've always been interested in. The good thing about having an 18-year-old is they still need you, because this idea that they stop needing you at 18 is nonsense if you haven't figured that out yet. But you are free. You're free to travel. You're free to take classes. You're free to start volunteering. You're free to start meeting people in different spheres than maybe you would otherwise. And I feel like it's time to open ourselves up to what the universe might have in store. And women at 40 now, we are just getting started. I think you are entering into the most exciting time of your life, because, prior to that, when we're raising our kids, things are about career and family and children. And now we can start having more freedom, even if you're in a 40-hour-a-week job. That was my situation, where you can't just bust out and go be a creative, but you can start kind of identifying, what do you love? What did you used to love when you were a kid? What really lit you up inside? And how can you start pursuing that, if not from a vocational standpoint, because not everything has to make money. I hate that we do that. We're always like, oh, you have a hobby that you love, you should monetize that hobby. Don't do that. But how can you start piquing your own curiosity? What are some things that you've always dreamed of learning about or becoming or whatever, and how can you kind of move in that direction? And I feel like the universe will rise up and meet you. So that's what I hope for you. Okay, let's see. Somebody had asked, I'm going to answer this question just because I love the way it was stated. You're so eloquent orally and in writing. Well, thank you. Do you have a degree in English/writing? And that's from Linda Say Merman. So that is such a great question. I was an English major. I have done loads of creative writing over the years. I never actually finished my undergraduate degree. And I know you guys know I'm an ordained pastor. So you're like, wait a minute, how does that work? I was in a non-denominational church. Everyone around me had undergrad degrees, postgraduate degrees, PhDs. I was like an anomaly, and I was ordained based on the years of service I had done in the church and on my expertise in the particular field in which I was ordained. So what happens when you don't have a college degree, and the reason I don't is Scott and I got married very young. He did not go the military route to become a pilot. He took private lessons and taught private lessons, and he flew traffic watch, and he did tours of the Grand Canyon, but he didn't really make enough money to feed us. So I was an administrative assistant in several different areas for many years, and I kind of paid for our life. So that's why I dropped out of school. I went back, and I now have the equivalency of an associate's degree plus a little bit more. But what's been great is because I have always been surrounded in every career I've ever had by people with so much education. I've never rested on my laurels, and I have always been someone who has pursued knowledge. I have been a huge reader. I am always trying, if someone mentions a concept or something in history, or some great writer or some quote from somewhere, and I don't know the source, I'm going back and researching the source and finding out who originally said it, and reading the book and ordering the book, and on my journey to become anti-racist, really reading James Baldwin and all of these people, Alice Walker, and just bringing myself into a place of feeling educated has made me never feel like, oh, well, I have a postgraduate degree, so I've learned everything that I need to learn. So for me, I feel like it has served me very well. I've always had a thirst and a quest for knowledge. I basically grew up in the library. That was my happy place. That's where I would always go. I would browse the aisles and find things that interest me. I love biographies. I'm not formally educated in that way, but I am a lifelong learner. And like I said, I think it's served me better in a way, because I'm always open to new ideas, especially with the people in my life that are considerably younger than I am. I don't ever want to be like in a vacuum where I'm only looking at my own perspective on things. I love talking to people that are older than I am, younger than I am, richer than I am, poorer than I am, more educated, less educated, different nationality, they live in different countries, all of that. Conversations fascinate me, and I really do feel it's so cringy. I really do feel like every day is a school day. And I feel like that has served me well. So, yep, there you go. And the eloquent part is just theater. Yeah. So there you go. Community theater, Kids of America. This is your vindication. All right. This next question is, have you ever been to Canada? Oh, Canada. Yes, I have. I have been to Canada several times. I have been to Vancouver and I have been to Victoria, British Columbia, which I absolutely love. I have a secret dream to someday go to Prince Edward Island just so that I can walk the footsteps of Lucy Maud Montgomery and quote Anne of Green Gables lines all day, every day, because I am obsessed with Anne of Green Gables. I have been my entire life. If you want to know, Megan Fellowes' 1980s miniseries is my Anne of Green Gables favorite. I would love to spend more time in Canada. And this made me laugh because like 3 of you are Canadian and messaged me or posted the question, please come to Canada. So I know that Canada is a big place. I actually have some friends that are from Saskatchewan. So I would love to explore Canada more. So that might be one of my next big forays, is to figure out where I want to go in Canada. Do I want to go to Ontario? Do I want to go to Vancouver? Really want to go to Prince Edward Island. So we'll see. I hope to soon. That would be fantastic. Love Canada. So this was a great question. This could actually be a whole video, but I'll try to answer it as best I can. How does flying internationally differ to flying within the US? Okay, so I would say that services definitely vary. So the airplanes are much bigger. So the first thing is, for the most part, there's a lot more overhead space and just like a lot more space in the plane in general. There's usually, they have to have by law a handicap accessible bathroom. So there's just more space. There's more bathrooms. It's a bigger airplane. So that part is really good. There is, if you're on Delta at least, there is food available and you don't have to purchase it. So if you're on a 9-hour flight, you don't need to feel like you have to bring all your own food on. The airline will tell you in the information about your flight exactly what meals are included so you can kind of plan ahead for that. On Delta, again, this is my only frame of reference of late, but they also have a place in the back of the airplane where if there's not meal service or drink service or snack service going on, you can go to the back of the plane and at least get water. Sometimes, depending on the flight, they'll have wine back there. They'll have baskets with snacks, that sort of thing. You'll see a lot of people dressed very, very comfortably, even more than domestic flights. Some people change. I never do. I always kind of dress in layers. Just for comfort. The plane will be freezing. So if you intend to sleep, definitely watch some of my other videos about kind of comfort during international travel, but especially ocean crossings. I don't know what it is, but every ocean crossing I've ever been on, I feel like they could hang meat on the interior of the airplane. So make sure you have a blanket. Now they will give you, again, on Delta, I don't know about every airline, but they will give you a pillow and a blanket. But the blankets that they give out, although they are washed and sanitized, don't feel like they're dirty blankets because they're not, but they're thin. They're like those thin hospital blankets. So that's the one time that I highly recommend bringing some kind of a packable. There's a company called Gravel Blankets. I just ordered one from them. I'll link them below. But they have a blanket that actually has like feet wells in it. So you can stick your legs in there so the blanket won't, like you can attach it and like wear it and put your feet in it so you can stay nice and cozy warm. Just make sure you're ready for that. And then conversely, it could be really hot all of a sudden on the airplane. So just be prepared for all of that. Your body will go through stuff on an international flight. If you're in the air 9 hours plus, you'll get this like airplane bloat around your belly in particular, which is just from being at altitude and not having a lot of movement and things like that. So make sure you don't wear anything that's terribly restrictive around your middle. Compression socks are a great idea to keep circulation flowing. That is an issue. Your feet may very well swell, so you don't want to wear shoes that are very tight. I made this mistake once. I wore boots on an international flight that did not like zipper up, like I had to wedge my foot into them. When I tell you, I almost had to walk off the plane barefoot because my ankles were so swollen and I couldn't get I could not get the boots on my feet. So I learned my lesson. And now when I wear boots for international travel, I have some that zip up. So if I can't zip them up, that's okay. I can just like leave them open. But yeah, just little things like that, that like for me anyway, happen to my physical body. Your skin will get very dried out. So you want to make sure you have lip balm and lotion. So it's really, to me, they will turn the lights off. And when they turn the lights off on an international flight, and this is for everyone in the flying public in general, stop talking or talk very, very quietly, which is very difficult on an airplane. If it's an international flight and they're turning all the lights out, it's like in kindergarten when your teacher turns the lights out. It means to zip it. So please try. If you have to have a conversation with your neighbor, maybe do it over text message or write notes back and forth. But it's very challenging as someone who does love to sleep on international flights and who is quite good at it, by the way, when people are carrying on a very loud conversation. I don't know why they're not picking up on the social cues that the lights are down and 90% of the people on the plane are trying to sleep, but whatever. That is a thing. The other thing is try to avoid like the bum rushes to the bathroom, which will usually happen after meal service. So try to like preemptively figure that out so you don't have to wait in a long line for the bathroom. And yeah, you're going to be fine. The truth is, it's just like a regular flight, except for it's longer. That's not terribly helpful. But yeah, you'll be fine. You're going to have a great trip. Okay, favorite travel destination and why. And I'm going to end with this one. You guys, that is so hard to answer because in my YouTube journey, just in my YouTube journey, and by the way, prior to filming videos, I was traveling quite a bit. Before, I traveled as a kid. I've traveled all over the world, but during my YouTube journey, I've been to Greece and Japan and Mexico and London and Paris and all over France now. And I have had Italy. I've had so many amazing adventures. And this is a real challenge for me to say, and kind of my heart wants to say one thing, but because it's not really practical for me to go back very often, like I loved Japan, but also I didn't go with Scott, and Scott doesn't really want to go. So therefore, for right this second, my favorite travel destination is the island of Paros in Greece. We were just talking about it this morning, and I almost don't want to tell you guys about it because it is so magical. I absolutely love that island. I loved that it's quieter. I love that the cruise ships don't really go in there. I loved that it had a very locals feeling. I love that everyone knew everybody else. Definitely go in September or early October. Everything on that island closes down like middle of October. But if you go at the tail end of the tourist season, I dream about it. I loved it so much. I loved the food. I loved the people. I loved the family feelings there. I just had almost like if I believed in reincarnation, which I don't think I do, I feel like I was there at some time in my life and absolutely adored it. And we can't wait to go back. So as of right now, I'm going to say Paros, Paros, Greece is my absolute favorite destination. And our hotel that we like there, you could also do like Airbnbs, but the hotel there that we love is the Cove Paros, and amazing place. So there you go. All right, many wonderful adventures ahead. If you have not already subscribed to the channel, I wish you would. We talk about all things travel, home, life, dogs, fitness, all the fun things. And I'm just a woman of a big age who's trying to live her best life and communicate well with you guys. So if that's something that you're into, please hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and give this video a big thumbs up. And I cannot wait to see you next time. Whatever you're doing today, I hope you're finding joy. Bye.